There are only like less than 10 participants. Just will give another 2 to 3 minutes. We'll start at 9:45 for sure. I'll give you a recap, then we'll start. To make just to benefit the people who have joined. Thank you all for joining on time. If you have any questions with respect to project or anything, you can just put it in a Q&A session. I hope like last week I have asked you to start the complete the courses, like not last week. I think on Tuesday I requested you guys to complete the course of introduction to cybersecurity and thread modeling course. So hope you have done that assessment uh, in each courses. So today we will talk about identity and governance administration, and you can complete the course once we are done with the learning. So did you guys faced any issues when you're doing the course introduction to cybersecurity or thread modeling? I think thread modeling has only just 10 questions at the end of the assessment, and introduction to cybersecurity might have like 15 questions each. We have 30 minutes time. So once you're done with the course, maybe the next day you will get a certification, completion certification. So whoever has access to Springboard, I know some of them are facing some problem, but others who are having access to Springboard, just complete these two courses. And the third course, whatever we are discussing today, request you to complete it. Only then you will be marked as a course completed. Your attendance and your certification and project would be taken into account. So if you have any questions, you can ask or you can post it in Q&A session. So we'll start the session. Thank you, Sona College of Arts and Science and Jairam College for joining on time. We have another participant, Gilan Deswari. Thank you for joining on time. So these are the three courses: Introduction to Cybersecurity, Thread Modeling, and Identity and Governance. So these are the three topics or the courses that you have to complete. Everyone should complete all these three courses. So you're done with the Introduction to Cybersecurity. Last class we done with the threat modeling. I hope you remember what we discussed over there. We talked about like what are the designing techniques. We talked about like ATM case study, like how the withdrawal function can be done and how it can be performed in a via threat modeling. So once you're done with the course, you will be getting a certification. Like for example, if I'm going to introduction to cybersecurity, you should start the course at the end. Since we have completed all the course, you'll get a like this is the assessment page which has 15 questions. Once you're done with this, you will able to get the course completion certificate. So you'll get a completion certificate here. So this is for introduction to cybersecurity, similar for threat modeling as well. Threat modeling, last class, I'll just give you a recap of what we have discussed in the last class. Last class we were talking about what are the basic, what is threat modeling. We talked about like what is the need for threat modeling and what we are supposed to do as part of threat modeling. How we talked about stride approach and threat priority modeling. How we are how we are bifurcating the different levels in threat modeling approach. We'll be looking into the application design, web application design, and how will you include the security uh, in each phases of SDLC. All those things we have discussed as part of the threat modeling technique. And in the use case, we talked about ATM withdrawal, and we also covered the 5 steps how we're going to do for security objective, overview, application overview, decomposing the application. You remember like the customer, the diagram. Let's take you one particular topic. So this particular data flow diagram, we discussed like how a customer is sending their withdrawal request, how the process is identified, and what are the interactions that is happening for this particular process. And via that, we have been like we had defined the roles in the decompose application, and when we are into the next step, we are identifying the possible threats. So possible threats at each component. What are the threats that is there? What are the scenarios that we can come across in the ATM withdrawal? So we saw hacker can secretly put a device to duplicate the card. These are the different scenarios that has come up for this particular case. So it can be like here there is only like 10 or maybe maximum 10 to 12 points. But if you brainstorm, we can come to like a big list of things where it can go wrong. And for each threads, you can think about what is the vulnerability related to that, how we can able to mitigate those risk associated with the vulnerability and the threat. So this is how before something is going wrong, we proactively identifying the process areas. We are identifying what is the vulnerability and what are the uh, threats that can affect our systems, and then
This meeting is being recorded.
we are making the proactive approach of dealing with the risk associated with this through threat modeling techniques. And we also talked about dread. So dread is nothing but damage, reproducibility, exploitability, affected users, discoverability. So these are the metrics that has been we'll be having a rating of 0 to 10 for each under each topic or metric, and then we will be rating a thread. So we saw like we have like 15 to 10 to 15 threads identified for the case. So there might be hundreds of processes or hundreds of threads that's being identified. So how to prioritize them? Like what are the things that we need to focus on? We may not know. So to prioritize those risks and threats, we will be coming up with these threat model where the impact and how frequently it can be exploited, how a vulnerability can be exploited, how easy the vulnerability is. All those things will be done through this particular threat rating technique. And we also rate the component as a low to high. If you see here, like for each, what is the damage it can cause, what is the reproducibility rating, exploitability, affected users, how many number of users are exploited. So if the very less users, then the rating would be less. If, for example, if your college website is being down and if there is any thread that is affecting it, so the entire users will be affected. So during the exam time or exam results time, if your site is down, then the affected users would be huge. So at that time, the affected users would be rating would be 10 out of 10. So likewise for each metric, they'll be coming up with the rating and they will take an average of it and they calculate the score, and based on the average score they will be rating as a whether it's a low, medium or high threat. So here we have the example for it. So if there is no physical security, what are the things that can go wrong, and they have marked they have come to a conclusion. It's quantitative approach, and these ratings are taken by the experienced people through brainstorming. They'll come to a consensus that what you need to justify, if the affected users rating is 9, then why you have marked as a 9, you have to justify those ratings before it's being prioritized. So after the average, if the particular number average results is coming between I think 6 to 9, it will be rated as a high. I think rating the highest number is 9, not 10. 0 to 9. It differs to each organization to organization. They can even rate from 1 to 10 or 0 to 9 based on their rating methodology. And once we are done with all the ratings, we'll be thinking of the countermeasures. Countermeasures is if you have a weak password as a one of the threat, and then weak password is a vulnerability. If someone can easily attack that particular vulnerability, what we can able to do that, like the countermeasures would be like having a strong password, making everyone to change your password with a higher complexity would be the countermeasure for that. So We have to come up with a list of threats. What is the risk? What are the attack techniques that can happen, and the countermeasures related to that. So it will be a huge list. What are the things that can be done, and it will be segregated to each team. Like for example, here putting a hidden camera can be a attack technique, and the risk could be hacker can gain the access to ATM pin. So the countermeasures are users are advised to ensure that there is no hidden camera around. The users are advised to key in their pin secretly by blocking the view of the keypad. So these are the things that we need to have a notice or something stating that you have to see whether the camera is around. We need to educate the ATM users, and also we need to provide them message or something that asking them to block the pins when they are entering it. So these are the ways that this particular risk can be mitigated. Mitigated in the sense can be reduced. So once we have come up with all the threat vulnerability and risk, we need to countermeasures as well. We need to come up with a documentation. So we also talked about the different tools, pros and cons. What are the like different processes that is there? How we can draw a flow diagram in Microsoft STL. What is the correct flow diagram? We need to include all the sources and all the entities interacting with each other. How to draw and analyze in the threat modeling. So the same ATM flow, how we can able to get that in a Microsoft STL. And at the end, I gave you the this particular assignment. You can just try to replicate the same model in your system and try to get the results for it and the report related to the threads and submit to your lecturer. It's a sort of a project that we are doing as part of the web application thread modeling. You would have got another project from Naeem that is related to the network. This is the one related to the application. So once we are done with everything, we have a 10 questions for this particular model, for this particular thread modeling course, and you can send. And for the Q&A, I think you can send the phone numbers like you have said, like there is a login issue, OTP verifications. When you click on OTP verification, you are getting a message like SMS could not be sent because phone number not found. So what you can do is get the list of people and send a mail to them with their phone numbers to the support portal. They will verify whether these things are there and get back to you. Now we'll go to the today's session, which is identity governance and administration. So we have already heard this term called identity. So identity is nothing but like your username and your college IDs can be the identity of you. Like whatever you give to the system as a username is nothing but the identity. So how we are gonna govern it? Like like in your college there might be like 400 to 800 students or more than that as well. How the admin team is governing each person? Like they need to have a specific uh, specific access for people in each department, and even like they might have a controls for like final year students or third year students or second year students should have a different level of access. So these things can be done through the identity governance and administration. There are also like a similar way like in company in organizations also. In company organization also there will be different departments and the teams, project teams, and they have to have a multiple access procedures and come up with a how they are managing all the, for example, uh, a particular company like Infosys might have lakhs of users, like there are like 5 to 6 lakhs of employees taken for just take for an example. The admin should manage all the 6 lakhs employees access in a particular tool. How they gonna maintain it? And they might be from a different departments. They can be from HR department, they can be from admin department, they can be from IT department, and some of them from the project department, some of them may be non-IT as well. So how they are gonna manage all those stuff? They have to give a proper access also to them too. In order, we talked about privileged access, least privileged access, and separation of duties. So they have to include all these concepts on how they gonna develop a working environment for those people, and what are the different measures that they're gonna do. There might be people who are coming in joining the organization. There might be someone who's leaving the organization in the middle of the like year. So they have to also provision the access for new employees, and also they have to revoke it as soon as they move out. So once you passed out of your college, your access to your college websites or your logins would be disabled. You will be given the access to alumni portal. So similarly, organization will do the same. All the accesses like ID card access till to the your access at the system side, logical access, everything will be, even your ID cards will be taken back when you're moving out of the company. So we'll discuss how they are managing it, what are the tools that is being used, and what are the different techniques, or we can say concepts that is involved in the identity governance and administration. So if you have any questions, just put them in the Q&A session. Request you not to disturb the class by raising your hand or sending an unauthorized request. Just put the details in the Q&A session. We'll discuss at the end of the session. Have any questions? Do you want me to unmute you? I can do that as well. Keson, you have any questions? Hello, Keson, you have any questions?
No question, sir.
Okay, please don't raise the hand in between. I think it's for all people. It's disturbing the class. Okay, okay. Let's go to the what are the outcomes of this particular session. So upon the completion of the course, you will understand the following: the need for identity governance and administration. So why we want to understand, why you want to learn the identity governance and administration. What are the basic concepts that is involved in the identity governance and administration? So there is a lot of need for people, because this is why we are like, there are a lot of topics in cybersecurity, but why we are concerning only about the threat modeling and the identity governance, in the sense like there are a lot of demand of in this particular areas which need many people for the like for the organization. So that's why like these are the two important things that has been given priority when compared to the other topics in cybersecurity. So will the principles of least privilege, identity, what do you mean by identity, application accounts, entitlements, what do you call by entitlements? So these in cybersecurity, what all these jargons means. Like if I say entitlement, like at the end of the course you should know what is entitlement. If I say like identity, you already talked, since we have already learned about some fundamentals of cybersecurity, we know what is identity. But people who doesn't know till now, you can able to understand it better when we are completing this particular course. And you already know about the least privileges. We talked multiple times, like the person should be given only the least access to do their work, not any extra access more than what is required. And the onboarding process in IGA. How if there is any new person coming into the organization, if they have been like for example, every year there is a any some sort of a placements going on for the particular company. Every year in the month of July, new people getting joining into the organization. So what is the onboarding process that needs to be done? They have to given the basic access for the in the organization. So whenever they come in, the general access or the reception access should be given. The floor access which they belong to should be given. If they have any induction programs, so should be they have to give to the access to the auditoriums. So like this, there will be basic things that needs to be followed for onboarding process. Identity governance capabilities. So once they are onboarded, as a regular activity, what are the things that we are supposed to do? Policy modeling, access recertification. So some why we need access recertification, in the sense like some people may be changing the departments, like someone may be in the admin department. After 6 months or a year, they might move to a HR department. So the access given to the admin department would be different than the HR department. So through recertification, usually during the transfers, the access will be modified. It's like a check that we are doing during the like access certification or recertification. During those process, even if there is any flaw in our process, it can be easily identified. For example, you can consider that uh, in your college you are given a lab access only for the second year or third year students. The first year students will not have any access to the lab, your computer lab. And if someone is moving from first year to second year, if they still have not given any access, then you will raise a issue to your admin that you are not having access to your computer lab systems. Rather than individually raising the issues, for example, if there are 100 people in a particular class, all the 100 people, if you're raising the issue, it will be the admin will not be able to look into those and resolve it one by one. Rather, if they have a model, like if your college starts in June, first week, in the June, like a third, second week or something, if they have some process to check whether all the first year students have been given access, then it is a proactive model where we can able to understand they are considering all the fresher like first year to second year people, and the access is provided, or the lab access is provided for them in a automatic way, rather than waiting for the people to log in and check, and if there is no access, then they are raising a complaint for that particular issue. So that's why it's called as a access certification. Similarly, recertification, like every 3 months once or 4 months once, they will be checking whether the appropriate people are having the access or not. Maybe in college, yearly once only there will be changes, but in organization, there will be changes like every day and every month. People might be moving from one department to other department, or they might be moving out of the company, or new people joining the company at any point in time. So the admin department should have a regular process to verify it every once in 3 months, at least once in a month. But if they don't have a bandwidth or time to do that, they can do it once in a 3 months to verify the access of the employees who are just joined or who moved out of the company. And what is the risk related to that? What is the role modeling means? So all these topics we'll be covering as part of this particular session. What do you mean by automated provisioning? I talked you right, if they've been moving into first year to second year, then automatically the access should be provisioned to your lab or uh, any other laboratories automatically. So we should have a provision for that. And what are the workflows related to that? For example, if you're asking for any access, your your manager should approve it to whether it is a valid one or not. So those are called workflows. How your request flows to the system, in the system, and how you're getting the access provisioned. So for example, if you're raising if you're saying that you don't have access to your computer lab systems, you might be first intimating your lab technician, or before that you might be saying it to your lecturers. Then lecturers might ask the lab technicians to correct this particular issue, and the lab technician would be checking for the flaws, and he might be whether if he could able to do, he can able to do, or if he wants to contact some other team, he will contact the team and provide the resolve the issue. So these things might be performed verbally in your college, or might have done, you would have seen this happening in a like a verbal manner. But in organization, it will be done through the ticketing model. If someone is having any issues, they will raise a request, and it will flow through the different hierarchy, and then it will get approved or rejected, asking for the request, and then you will get a resolution for that. So let's look into the typical scenario in any organization with respect to employees in the access to IT systems. So we talked only about the computer labs, but in organization there will be multiple application. Even if you want to get a access to any of the applications, you have to raise an access request. Like there might be some basics like emails and Microsoft Office. So these some of these applications might be provided in a default way. For example, if you want to take a printout in your organization, you have to raise and request. So just give you a minute, just go through this particular scenario. Uh, if you have your mobile or system, you can also go through in your login as well. You can do it parallelly so that you can take the sessions and complete this course. You have the option to do it. So just large organization having a several hundreds of to few hundreds of employees. So read these 4 lines and try to understand what is given over here. So if you look at this particular scenario, the organizations have a large number of many different types of resources. So all the computers, servers, applications are called as nothing but the resources. So networks, email servers, file servers, web applications. And these resources are varying computing devices that employs the users to carry out their jobs function. In IGA context, application is used interchangeably. So the organizations have multiple resources and each employee will be having the different resources access. So this is how it might be looked at. Like each employee will be having the access to different resources. Now we'll have a like how the access is maintained for each employee in the different systems or the different resources. We'll see that how they are managing it. For example, if you take here, we have like a 10 to 12 resources. We have 10 to 12 employees. We have 4 resources. How it is being mapped. What resource an employee can have access to. So the resources that each employee in the organization have access may vary. This is the one important point because it is not identical like all like you have like all your first year students or second year students will have the same access. It won't be the same way in corporate. Some people might be looking into the business. Some people like you have a different projects, right? If you're doing any your subject projects, you might be splitting into different groups. So similar way in the organization, even at the same experience level, they might be having they might fall into different teams, and the access related to them also will be varied. And all the employees have some common. So it's like not like completely it's very like they will have some basic like email access, laptop access, bay access. These are the access to the workstations. These are the some of the basic access that they might have. So example, in large organizations, typically all the employees normally have access to the domain network and email account. So each employee will have their own email ID, and domain network is their access to the all the computers in their network using their user ID and login ID and password. They can able to log in into the systems. So in addition to these, each employee will also have some additional access that depends on the department and the role. So based on the work department role, you might be having an access. So as I said, like as of a second year students, you might be having the access to the labs. But in the lab itself, like if there is any like different labs, like BCom has a different lab setup. BSc computer science might be having a different lab access. So admin should think and get the names and the IDs of the people pertaining to particular department, and they have to give the access to the each lab. So similarly, based on the department and the role, they might be given access. So for example, an accountant working in a finance department in an organization will have an access to finance related web applications, addition to the common access. So with respect to the common access, only the accountants will be having the finance department access in the organization. So that's the key thing. For other thing is like HR department might be having the human resources related application. So access that employees have is not constant, will change over the time. So as I said, like there might be this different scenarios, the access might get changed. So they move in and out of the organization and between the departments as well. So based on the movement, your access should be defined and provisioned, and you might be having, so they have listed all the different scenarios when you need to change the access. So every week many employees might join the organization or quit the organization. When employee joins the organization, they require to access a access needs. They require access needs to be provided. When someone is quitting, their access should be revoked. During the tenure of the employee in our organization, the employee can request a new access as well. So there might be case like if I don't have access to printer, I need to take an access, like I need to take a printouts. I might be access get an access through a request. So that's why here they are saying employee can request for a new access. And if a manager is getting approving the request, they might be given the access to the printer and relinquish old access. So relinquish means like to disable the old access. Like if their work is done, printout work is done, they if they think that they do not want this particular access to them, then they can raise a request to remove the access. So how these things are happening? So for this, we need to have a identity and access management tool or governance tool to perform these actions. So these are the different scenarios they are giving, like what are the complexity that is there practically when we are dealing with the access. So during the tenure in the organization, employees can change their password, unlock their account. Okay. There is other scenarios where, like as I said, like we come across like a many situation, like if you're giving multiple wrong passwords, your account might be getting locked. How will you enable that particular account? Sometimes you might be given access to unlock your account by giving the like OTPs or passwords, temporary passwords. But other cases you have to raise a request to do it. Even if you do unlocking the account, it is being saved in the your identity and governance tools, identity management tools, that will be setting a logic that if someone is giving a wrong password for 3 times or 5 times, you lock the account. So this particular activity is also performed through the tool which is concerned about the identity and access management. And providing access, revoking access, changing passwords, unlocking user accounts are the responsibility of the organization's admin department. So the IT department will be taking care of all these activities. So this particular slide gives you like what is the work that a identity and administration should perform, like provisioning access, revoking the access, if some changing the password, unlocking the user accounts are the some of the priority work that they are responsible for. So now we are only dealing with the why identity and governance. Why we want to learn about the identity, governance, and administration. So we talked about the scenario of like what are the different scenarios that the IT department might be coming across. Having understood the typical organization, let's discuss the problems the organization face. See, the scenario that we talked is ideal scenario. So in the ideal scenario also we saw there are multiple complexity available, but if there is some problems, the IT department in many organizations carry out previously described activity manually or at least involving some manual intervention. However, large number of employees or resources, large enterprises faces two main problems. What are the problems? First one is security problem. One of the important objective of the IT administration team is the security team in the organization needs to ensure every time every employee has access to carry out their job. So we talked about the least privileges. So that's what it's been one of the concern for the security team that only the required access should be provided to the people, and they need to keep on checking this that no extra access should be given to the employees, and manually ensuring that would be very difficult in large organization because we'll have lakhs of employees, we have thousands of assets or resources, computing devices, so that it will be very hard for them to manage it. Administrative problem. What are the administrative problems that we have in the large organization? Creating, deleting employee user accounts. See, there might be at present in your college there might be 2000 students studying, but overall, like if you take a history of your college since inception, there might be more than 10,000 or close to 1 lakh people would have passed out of your college. So in this case, think of a scenario if all the students still having the access to your college website, if it has been not been revoked, that is a administrative problem. So administrator should check for the final year students, and once they passed out of the college they should revoke their identity. That is the problem for administration department, IT administration department, where there will be, if they are performing manually, revoking the access, changing the password, if they it's been done very manually, then it will be overhead for them. So they are saying these both are interrelated because someone is not revoking the access may result in the security issue. So that's why we are concerned about the IT admin people as well. As a security person, we need to see whether the admin department is properly revoking the access or not. So we have talked about all the issues and the complex situations that is faced by the organization. Now we'll talk about the solution part. So the solution part is an identity governance and administration framework or software solves both these problems. The high level functions or capabilities of IGA. So we call it as a IGA from now on, which means the identity governance and administration. So IGA solution that solves the problems describing the listed below listed ones. So if you see here how the we talked about lot of situations, problems. Now we'll talk about the solution. Find out who has the access, what resources in the organization automatically by click of the button. So if I click a button in the tool, I could able to easily get a list of people who are having access to the particular resource. For example, computer lab, which is belonging to BCom or BCom CA. If I go and check for that, who all have the access to that. If the number of students studying in that particular department would be like maybe 40 in each year, so we consider like 120 people are studying for 3 years. So I should have only 120 plus the staffs. I should not have more than 130 people maximum having the access to the BCom CA lab at any point in time. If it is being used by like multiple people, and the numbers would change accordingly. But with the click on in a tool, I could able to see for each lab and for each student level as well. Like if I click on a particular student, I should able to see for which lab he has a access to, whether it is related to his department or not. So those sort of details also can be obtained by the IGA tool, Identity and Governance Administration tool. And finding the employees who are violating the policy defined by the organization. So this is also key thing. If someone is trying to access some, for example, you belong to BCom CA, if you're trying to get access to the BSc Computer Science lab, that is a violation. If someone is getting knowingly or unknowingly, that's a violation. So how to capture those violations? Through this particular tool. If an employee is having the access which is unnecessary access also, we can able to obtain it. So violating the policy, unnecessary access, all these things will be obtained through this particular tool. Know who are the riskiest employees. So riskiest employees in the sense who has the lot of access. Usually the upper management would be having the lot of access. For example, in your college, your exam coordinator or the your department heads, your principal or correspondent would be having the access to all resources, all modules in your college website. So those are the accounts that are very risky. If something happens for those accounts, then it would be there would be a lot of loss in the data, as well as something can go wrong as well. So that's why, like in the organization, if you take the hackers will be targeting on the CEOs uh, access, or the like who are the CXOs, chief operating officer or chief information officers, their access, so that either they will be trying directly trying for those access, or else they will crawl and go to the those particular the access of the CXOs through the employee access. So we should have a different checks at each level, so that the elevation of the privileges are cannot be performed by the hackers. Automatically create employee accounts, grant access to the employees when the employee join or leave the organization. So take for an example a company like TCS, CTS, Infosys, like there are like 500 to 600 people are joining at in a particular time. So do you think like two or three people can sit and give a ID or identity for each employee? And is it possible for them to give a default password manually within a certain time? No. It is possible, but it will take a lot of time, and also we have a human error as well. Someone might give a wrong password, or someone might not send the correct password to the employees. All these manual issues will be there. Along with that, we have a problem in the like having a lot of time invested for the generating the new IDs identity for the new employees who are joining in the company. So we need to have a proper mechanism in place. For example, if there are like if there is a nowadays you are hearing about layoffs. So if there is 1,000 employees are leaving the company, the next day they should not have access. So do you think within one day 1,000 employees access can be revoked manually? It's very hard, right? Like it will not be easy for check in the system. Someone would have worked for 5 years and they would have got like 40 to 50 accesses that they might have for different applications. So everything can be easily done through this tools which are related to the identity governance and administration tools. Provide self-service means to employees for the activities like password reset and account unlocks. So if I want to reset the password to in my computer, I can just go for the control or delete and change my password to my user account. But in the organization, if you want to do, you should have a provision to do that. And for each application, for example, if I want to change the password for Infosys Springboard, I can able to do it by going to the profile page and I can modify it. So we should give a provision for them to modify it for each application. And sometimes even if there is any account locks, they should have access to automatically do it. So these are the things that we have already seen with respect to identification and authentication. It just would be the reiteration of what we have discussed. Since you guys are already aware about the vulnerabilities related to login screens, we have discussed this identification and authentication mechanism. Here we are learning the exact definition for this. So I'll give you 2 minutes, just go through this particular slide. So here we'll talk a bit technically here, like in the operating system, there will be a multiple user software systems. So operating system is a multi-user software system. So multi-user can be use a computer at a different times or even simultaneously. So we talked about your lab, right? So your lab might be having the Windows operating system, and you might be able to log in any of the systems by giving your user ID and password. How it is possible? You give, it's not defined in your particular system. Through network, they are interconnecting each network, and they can able to at a OS layer they are having the. So also each user has their own data in this application. Every user must see only their data, not someone else. So the operating system must be able to allow who is the user, who is the trying to log in before any data is present to the user. So the OS required to identify yours first. The process is called identification. So they are given it at a granular level. Um, you already know this particular concepts, identification and authentication. So if someone is giving wrong password or trying to get into your password, sorry, your username, it's called as a impersonation. Someone like if you're using your friend's user ID and password, that's called a impersonation. If you're doing the same in organization, you will be like punished or send a like they will be providing a some sort of a legal act. So anyone's password or username and try to impersonate. And operating system needs to be protect the user's impersonation. Proving your authentic identity is called with the some additional information. So what are the additional information? Like password, OTPs or the additional information. You are proving your identity and getting authenticated. So the act of proving the identity with some additional information like password is called authentication. So we already discussed about this as well, multi-factor authentication. So something the user knows, something the user has, something the user is. If there is any combination of all these things, it's a, called as a multi-factor authentication. So many times a password can be easily guessed or cracked by other techniques. I hope I have already shown you a website where you can able to see how faster your password can be hacked. So if you're giving your easy password, like for example password one at the rate, I'm giving the password with the 10 digits, but if you see you can this thing can be cracked within 0 seconds because it's something that is being used at a by many people. The request not to give your own password but try with some different password. So if you use like lowercase, uppercase, numbers, some special characters, it will show you how fast or how a particular password can be hacked. How long will it take to crack this particular password? They are given as 37 years. So you can able to see the inclusion of one character or one special character, how it is getting changed. So it's just a rough calculation, but if you use like a WATI, some passwords, very easy passwords, these things can be, someone is having like these sort of passwords. So these things, even if it is a 9 to 10 character, since it's a sequential character, these things can be easily cracked. So the process of hacking your password is called cracking. So the time to crack is just 0 seconds. So if I'm adding some more alphabets, lowercase, uppercase, you can able to see the difference. Even with this familiar password, like I'm just including the some characters that was making my password strong. So that's why you should always have a very strong password. So now we'll come to the topic. So how the authentication happens. What the user knows. So just go through this particular, what are the things that is given in the what user knows. So as I said, like there are three ways of authenticating yourself, authenticate, authenticating someone. That is through what he knows, what you have, and what you are. So with the what you know, you have password, PIN numbers, and the security questions. It's a one type of authentication. The second type is what the user has. Here you have CCV, OTPs that is being sent to the numbers, sorry, phone numbers, the secure ID, smart cards. You could able to see some three-digit number at the end, at the back of your debit cards. Those are the something that user has, and something you are the user is nothing but your fingerprint, retina, iris patterns, your face recognition, voice characteristics, palm geometry. All these things are what you are, or something the user is. So these are the different three authentication process. If you're using any two of these, it's called as a multi-factor authentication. So the three categories, something the user knows, has, is, or called as authentication factors. So authentication factor is a kind of information or technique used for the purpose of authentication. Something the user knows is nothing but the what you remember, like the password, PIN numbers are what you remember. Something the user has is at the point in time what you could able to provide it. For example, OTP authentication is what you user has. When you're doing some online transaction, you need to have a payment card. So when you're giving credit card or debit card, you might be giving the CVV values or the grid values. Like if you take ICICI Bank, there will be grid values that you need to provide for completing the transactions. That is nothing but the what you have. And something you are is nothing but the biometric. So those are the physical traits of a user. It's very hard to forge. So each of these authentication factor when used alone may not be secure. So we are combining those authentication factors for the critical applications. So that's why like when you're logging into bank or something, you're getting your pass with along with your password, there will be captcha for that. And then sometimes if you enable the nowadays even within Gmail itself, like you can able to enable the second factor authentication. Like once you log in into your system using the password, it will give you the push notification or a it will give you some sort of a OTP to authenticate you at a second level. So that those are the multi-factor authentication that is enabled. So when you're using two or more of these categories, it's called as a multi-factor authentication. So OTP and password, PIN and fingerprint. If we have these combinations, it's called as a multi-factor authentication. MFA is regarded as one of the most difficult to crack security technologies. So when two information from same categories are used, then it's called not called as a MFA. For example, if you are using security questions and PIN, or if you're using some paraphrases and PIN, it's not a password and a PIN. It's not a multi-factor authentication because you're giving two items from the same category. So that will not be considered as a multi-factor authentication. So you should know what are the two different authentication, what you have, what you are, and what you know, and it should be combination of more than one category to call it as a multi-factor authentication. Next comes the authorization. Authorization is nothing but what you can able to perform in the application. So after you log in, you're getting some sort of a page. So those are the modules or process you are authorized to do. So once you authenticated into operating system, what are the things that you can see? Some application like web browser, word processor, some files, uninstall, install some softwares. Some sometimes you will not be given the access of installing a new software in your computers. Those are restricted. So that is the authorization that you have in the operating system or in the system that you are logged in. So before you perform the action, the OS will check if you have a permission to do that. Sometimes when you download a software in your office or college machine, you might be it will be asking for the admin password, username and password. That means only the admin has the access to install the new software or download the softwares. Other users may not be having. So that those are the privileges that is given. So you are not authorized to do that. So the permission given for the user to do a particular action is called authorization. So now it comes to the principle of least privileges. So principle of least privileges, you already know like what if someone has to be given access only to perform their duties. That's called least privilege. You can go through this particular topic because we have already discussed a lot on least privileges. So now it comes to what is identity and access management versus identity governance and administration. So the term IAM, identity access management, is something that refers to the identity governance and administration. Though there are some similarities, these two are different in their purpose and capabilities. The main focus of IAM is on technologies like single sign-on for what doing authorization, whereas IAM is beyond the scope of this particular course. So we are only concerned about the identity governance and administration, not the identity and access management. So accounting, we talked about authentication, we talked about the authorization. Now we'll talk about the accounting part. So accounting means sometimes authorized users can accidentally or intentionally perform undesirable actions. So we have discussed this also when we are discussing on logging, that if someone is doing some malicious activity, or if you want to know who has done this particular activity, we need to have some sort of an accounting for that. So for example, authorized users can change their system settings, install unwanted softwares, visits restricted websites. So these are the cases that can happen. Someone can change the system settings, or someone can install unwanted softwares. Someone might go to the restricted websites. So how they can able to get the, like, who has done what? In such cases, it is very important to find out who did that particular action. So possibly recording some events in the log or audit files. So as I said, like, you already have the audit files in your computer. Like, you can also see, you can able to see the log files. I think I have already shown you this. You can able to see the Windows logs, application logs, custom logs in your system. So similarly, in your servers also, you can able to see them. So here you can able to see which user has logged in, how they are trying to access it. So if you see in the application, we have 749 events. Security, we have 16,000 events. Setup 85. Like this, there will be a dashboard. And someone if wants to get into all these things, they can go and read the logs and get the details of the errors as well. So this is for this particular computer. Same way, in the organization, there will be a big system to capture all the logs and get that what is gone wrong. These events include login attempts, file open attempts, file write, software installation. Events are recorded in the log files along with the timestamp. So when it has happened, who has done it, which username, IP address, all these stuffs are captured. So by analyzing these audit files, we can trace back to the person who did it. So maintaining the audit files, we can hold the users accountable for their actions. So if you remember, when we are discussing on the last OS vulnerability logging and monitoring, we talked about a person having a, like, sending a money to a bank teller, sending a money to Daniel, a person, and he is not claiming for that particular action. Then we went to the logs and saw that who has been logged in and who has done the particular perform the particular action. What if there is no accounting? Think of a situation when there is no logging, then it is very hard to get or see, investigate what things have gone wrong. So that's a basic thing. Like you should also always have a accounting and logging in place. So you have a quiz related to that. So now you very much comfortable on the three topics: authentication, accounting, and authorization. Now we'll talk about how the tools can automate it. So automatic detection and correction of access issues in the organization. So we want this particular capability. If there is any access issues, if someone could not able to log in into a particular system, we should able to correct it automatically, managing the employee access automatically. So identity governance, the capability which enable the organization to ensure all the employees are compliant with the organization policies to ensure the principle of least privileges is adhered to. So governance is more of monitoring. Like for example, we have a like a there is a person as a who is employed for a like a supervisor, you can think of in a hotel. Like there is a supervisor, he will be only involved in whether the foods are served properly to the customers, whether all the person who are working in the organization are properly doing their job function or not. So that is called identity governance. That's called governance. And also you can also consider the top management people. They also given with some work, but they mostly 50 percentage they might be monitoring whether the people who are reporting them are properly working there, doing their job function. Administration is the capability that will enable the organization in automatically handling the access changes. So these are the people who are doing it. So whether the granting access, revoking access, password reset, account lock, unlock, all these things are done by the identity administration. Governance is whether all the activities are done in a proper way, whether they're more concerned on they're adhering to the organization policies or not. So the main focus of identity governance is to address the cybersecurity risk of an insider threat and ensuring compliance with the various regulations. So insider threat in the sense sometimes the employee itself will do some malicious activity. He he might be taking some of the confidential data, or he might be sending the data to his personal ID like that, and he might be that's a threat to the organization. So we need to stop those stuff. So that's why we have this particular identity governance in place. So organization make use of IGA software that actually provides these capabilities. So we are having this identity governance and administration tools to do provision the access, remove the access, modifying the access, performing the reset options, governing those accounts, identity accounts are done through the IGA tools. So these are the some of the, so within governance we have policy, certification, risk and rules. And onboarding is both of governance and administration. Here they have just given interrelation of all these things. So we'll understand this based on a scenario. So I'll give you 2 minutes. Just go through this particular organization chart. We are talking about 10 employees, and we have the, just go through 3 departments. Just go through how it has been structured. So if you look at this particular hierarchy, you have a person who's leading all the employees, and we have 3 department heads for finance, engineering, and human resource. And we have the team members as well. So applications in the organization. So we here there are 4 applications that these employees have access to in our organization. They are payroll system, appraisal application, finance application, and active directory. So active directory is the network. Just remember these 5 applications: HR system, payroll system, finance application, appraisal application, and active directory. So what will be there in this HR system is the employee names, contact information, so on. So applications that employees make use of in their job is called system of interest. The applications are called as a selective access systems. So except active directory application, all other applications are elaborated in the upcoming sessions. Active directory is shown in the image just for the sake of logical completeness. It is also found application in every organization. This active directory is available in all the organization, and it's something that is a basic, like you're logging into your lab system, right? So those are like your account will be enabled in the Active Directory in the networks. That's how you can able to get into your system. So if you see here, every organization stores its employee information in the system of records. So we know what this identity is, right? Identity is nothing but your username or how the system identifies you. So these system of records could be some file, CSV or XSV file, and database or a directory service or from a special application. So if you look at the snapshot of HR system, you're getting a report from the HR system. You can able to see what is available. You have employee ID, first name, last name, email ID, manager ID, department, role, location, and whether he is active or not in the system. So HR system will have all these details in place. Just for an example, we have identity attributes and identify records. So similarly, if you consider related to your college, you might be having a college ID or your student ID followed by your first name, last name, email address, and your department name and the which location your address from. Maybe you can consider you have address, phone numbers like that. It may be part of your college system, students portal. So that's how it's been identified in the from the HR portal. So every organization has its own choice of identity attributes. So what is identity attributes? The first column, sorry, first row. So it can vary. Sometimes like if you see in your ID card, you might be having your blood group, all those stuffs. So those are the extra parameters that the college has the when they are saving your profile. So common identity attributes. Every organization has their own choice of identity attributes. In this scenario, we have only 7 attributes, but in real organization, there will be number of attributes. So typically, employee contact information, organization information will be stored in every organization. As I said, like there are some required things that needs to be there as part of the identity attributes. We have the other, you can also extend to other attributes as well. At least one of the attributes should be unique. So here like employee ID, email ID are the unique ones. Similarly, your student ID would be unique for you. There will be attribute that tells every employee is working in the organization or left. So we also need to have which particular in your college database you might be having a student studying in which year or is a part of this particular college now or is a past alumni. All those stuff will be there in the student's identity port. There will be an attribute to hold the account information. The manager ID attributes in the HR system points to the manager of an employee. See how the hierarchy is. Like for example, if you're part of a particular department, who are your lecturers or the coordinators or mentors? So you might be assigned with some mentors, right? So who is your mentor? Like if something goes wrong for that particular person, who which person should be reached out to? So all those things will be part of your system. So what is the use of identity data for authentication and authorization? An important use of identity data is used for authentication and authorization. So with these details, if I want to filter, like all these things are given, like just to filter, like if you want a department wise persons, or if I want a student access related, I can be easily able to obtain that through this particular system. So next we have a identity store. So just go through what you could, like I'll give you 2 minutes. Just go through this particular stuff. I can explain you in a minute. So we talked about like different identities that needs to be there. So where these identities, for example, your student IDs should be stored. So that is there in the ID store. System of record that store identity information is called identity store. It is important to note that identities are information about the employees, not about the access. So here only the your student name and ID would be there. What are the access that it be there? It will not be present in the ID store or identity store. In your college, you might be having student ID store, you might be having the staff identity store, non-staff identity store, like that. In companies, you might be having something related to HR ID store, like that. So mapping this particular ID store to different, having separate ID store is very tedious process. That's why we should have a centralized ID store. So one ID store is serving the IDs to the different application. So through this, a lot of confusion will be rectified. So what are the like problems that is there? If there is any update, for example, if you have done a system like this, like where we have a separate ID store for each application, then if there is any changes, if someone is leaving the organization, then we need to update in all the ID stores. So it will be very tedious one. So that's why companies will go for one particular ID store and then they relate to the different applications so that changes or modifications can be done in a easiest way. So, uh, you know that, right? Like we discussed like how complex it would be, like the volume of the people would be more, like there will be a lot of people, the access related to those people will be different. So maintaining the ID store different in a different for each, sorry, different application would be very cumbersome or complex architecture. Application accounts. So application accounts is whenever you log in into each application will have its own user ID or identity information. So employee gain access through application accounts. Application accounts will compromise of a username and a password. So the way in which you're accessing your application through user accounts. So take for an example, you're logging into, I've logged into my system, then I logging into the application where which is Infosys Springboard, where it identifies I would be having a different username in my system, and when you're logging into the application I might have given a different username here. So we should have a, those are called as a user accounts. Initially what I have logged in through Active Directory is nothing but the which is stored in the ID store. Once I come into this particular application, we'll have the user accounts. So sometimes both are can be same. Might be a bit confusing, but once you read through this, you can able to easily understand. So within the application account, you might be having the like what are the permissions or user rights, last login timestamp, is the account is active or locked. These information will be there in the application account. For example, now like my account will be enabled, user account. It will have the what are the permission that I can able to do within the application, and what is my last login, and is the my account is active or not. These things can be there for the application accounts. So here they have given the sample of a application accounts. So employee ID, account ID would be ID specific for this particular application, and username, last login, active, permissions, all those things are given in the application account stored. So now we are taking the payroll system users. So select star from payroll system dot users. We are taking the list of users present in the payroll system, that getting all the columns. So we have ID, employee ID, user ID, email ID, group member, active or inactive, logged or unlocked. All these information they're getting in a when they queried the payroll system. So here you can able to see the ID, different IDs are given. One is the account ID and the other one is employee ID. Within the account itself, like will application itself will have a sequence of numbers. Like for example, row number one would be employee ID. Like computer science, first number person would be with the employee ID so and so. Second member would be with the employee ID or student ID so and so. So it will give a automatic numerical or defined logic numerical for the application accounts along with the employee IDs and the details of each. So those are called as a application accounts or the user accounts, application user accounts. So is active, inactive, or the few filters that is there to get the employee status. If it is inactive, then it means that Kishore is not part of any company as of now. Locked in the sense he's been like locked with a giving wrong passwords, and it's been the system as locked his account. So now we talked about the IDs and the user accounts. Now we'll talk to the entitlements. So entitlements is nothing but the permissions or the users rights. We talked about like there will be a student access, there will be a lecturer access, there will be a HOD access. So those HOD, lecturer, student are nothing but the entitlements that can be given. So application may have accounts payable, receivable, and administrator, and the payroll system can have these as a payroll analysis, reviewer, and the super admin. These are the different roles that can be there in the each application. Yeah, along with the user accounts, there can be a group member as well. Payroll system, the group member attribute is the entitlement attribute, and the finance app permission attribute is the entitlement attribute. In both these applications, the entitlement are directly mapped to every account. So in these applications, the entitlements like super admin, payroll analysis, accounts payable are directly connected to every account. So here you can consider these accounts groups are like nothing but the year-wise group. Like you have like a group for first year students, you have a group for particular department. Like that, you are combining the all the user IDs and having it in a group. So here, account group or user group comprises of one or more user accounts. So if I want to group, if I want to assign an entitlement to a particular group, like as we discussed, only second year and third year students should have access to the lab, BCom lab. BCom students, BCom second year, third year students should have only the access to the those particular lab. Then I can group the people and I can assign those entitlement or access rather than going individually and making them as a giving the access. I can able to group them and provided the access. So the individual access also will be there and also group access also will be there. So if you see here, this here you can understand it in a better way. In the appraisal account, you can have the user group. So Gareth is nothing but the manager and who's at the higher position. We saw the hierarchy, right? He is the topmost person in the hierarchy. That's why it's there is no employee tag for that particular user group. Whereas Daya and Daniel and Priyanka are like a leads for that particular department. So they are that's why they are given it as a employee tag as well as the manager tag. And all other team members are nothing but the employees. You can also see the account IDs related to that. So if you see here, they have given the select star from appraisal group. We need to know what is there in the group, right? We know a person belonging to the particular group. So what are the access that is being given? So access rights here, like add goals, submit the rating, add data, submit the appraisal, can be the employee group rights. So similarly, you can relate it to your any of your activities that you performed. Like for example, submitting your assignment would be the your student employee you can consider a student. Submitting it in the portal would be your right. As a staff or lecturer, they would be downloading those whatever you have submitted and they can correct and provide the marks to you. So those are the submit the marks or scores can be their access. So these are based on their job functionalities. The group rights are given. So why you need a account groups? Some applications use the account group technique for storing the entitlement information as the developers of the application might be considered as more efficient for convenient for that particular situation. And the student, it should be noted that the account groups are also type of entitlement. So user group attribute in the accounts table is still considered as a entitlement attribute. You do not want to confuse much. So whatever that you are aware, like group name is nothing but a combination of a particular role, student, uh, exam coordinator or exam cell. As a department, you can also have the grouping and the rights related to that. So now it comes to the correlation part. Correlation is nothing but getting the, I'll just give you 2 minutes, just read through this. So here we talked about like multiple applications, right? We talked about finance applications, we talked about HR application. So here they are taking a scenario where an employee is common to both system of record HR system and the finance application. So if he's coming into both the accounts, how we can able to retrieve that? What are the access that he has? So through employee ID like 1052, he was able to get like who are the ones that has the access, and here we are getting the whether the account is active, when he last logged in, what are the permissions that he has for this particular application. So you can also correlate with the within different systems by using the your employee ID or the unique number or unique ID that you have. So these are the like some of the benefits of your IGA, identity and governance method. Now we'll see what is the problem with the manual correlation. It's just a math. If you can able to see, it's like a simple third grade math. You can also understand like what should we do if you have to find all the applications that for every employee has a access in our scenario. Now we consider only one person. I- Take for an example, there are like thousands of applications, there are lakhs of employees. If I want to get a list of all the like access correlating to the each employee, then how tough it would be. We can do this by repeating the same step, manual correlation for each and every employee, but there are 10 employees, so that it might take 20 minutes. Take for example, like if you're doing it for 10 employees, it might take 2 minutes for each employee, so that 20 minutes. Now consider hundreds and thousand or even 100,000 employees are there. Such a large organization can have a several applications. For example, they have 50 plus applications. Here, even the numbers here stated are very less, but practically it will be coming under more than 1,000 applications that's being used, close to 1,000 applications that are used in an organization. And 10,000 can be a minimum number, but other organization have like at least like 2,000 to 10,000 employees there, or even go to lakhs as well. So how we can able to do that? Because we need to check, right? Like we need to check whether a person, like for example, a student becomes a student is having access to other department access or not. As a administrator, I need to keep on checking, verifying whether is there any violation of the policy or not. So likewise, within the organization, they will be checking whether they have application accessed correctly or not, whether they are violating any policy or not. They'll be keep on checking those accesses. See, now they are now without the IGA system, you can see a person is being like these are the applications that is there, HR system, payroll system, and the below are the usernames. Now they are mapping it manually. What would be the desired status? We should have a centralized location of entitlements and the accounts, and access should be given in a both way from the application to the centralized account. So an IGA Software will act as a central location for storing the identities and application accounts. Onboarding, when an organization wants to deploy IGA software, the immediate step after installation is onboarding. So aggregation of identities from authoritative identity stores, aggregation correlations from the application accounts from the other applications. So take for an example, your college doesn't have an IGA software. Now it's coming. Now they are procuring the or getting the IGA software, and they is placed in the your system. Now they need to check what all the sources of identity is there. They will check whether where the student ID is belonging to, and where we have the accounts information, like who are all having access to the particular application or a particular lab. They will try to look for those details and put them in the IGA software. And at the end, they will be trying to see for which application each students belongs to, whether they have proper access or not. All those things are performed when they are onboarding. So the next step would be aggregation of identities. Aggregation is nothing but getting all the identities from the system of records. Correlation is nothing but relating it to the uh, actual application. So I just skip this particular topic. You can go through this because this can be explained with like a diagram that is coming here. See here, identity aggregation is getting all the entitlements and the account IDs from the list. So here they have given a identity object, which is the IIS, or each object is given as a identity, which are the identity objects. And on the right, if you see, they're getting it from the application. Employee ID we have Daya, and the manager would be Gareth, belong to the finance team. And if you see, we have the accounts object as well, which is whether they are employee or manager. And we also have the entitlements as well. For the finance application, we have accounts receivable, payroll analysis, super admin. So here they have given only one, but there will be a lot of entitlements and account objects present in the actual real-time system. And here student ID, they have given like just 20 or 15 items, but usually it will be in thousands or lakhs. So you can think of how complex the situation would be and how they're gonna map it without a software. So this is how a particular identity and governance works. It is a place where you can map the your user ID or account IDs with the different applications and the with the entitlements, so that your least privileges, separation of duties, all those concepts are covered. So now you onboarded the IGA software. So what is identity governance? I'll just go through like at a higher level. You can read through each one. I'll just go through the important points in the each slide. So if you see here, identity governance involves the timely detection and correction of access issues. So we need to have a timely detection and correction of access and ensuring the compliance with the organization policies and various regulations. So this is the key line which defines the identity governance. So we should have a compliance with the organization policies. For example, your college policy might be like your second year student should have a access to the lab. That is the policy defined by your college. So to impose that, you need to have a identity governance. So likewise, organization will have a lot of access related policies. Like we saw, a particular application should be given only to the accounts team. That is the policy. So we need to give all the related policies to whether checking the act of checking is called nothing but the governance, and provisioning, revoking, all these things are part of the governance activity. Policies, we all already discussed that every organization has a set of rules or which is called as a policies. If someone is not adhering to the policy in time, it's called a policy violation. Some example of simple security policies are changing the password every month. Do not tailgating. Tailgating is just without providing your access, you are entering into your with your friend's access into the particular floor. That is it called tailgating. Never share the password with anyone, even if it is a critical business requirement. So here they are trying to understand whether any of the accounts are violating any policy or not. So the example we had before is one user must have only one account on an application. But here, like if you see in the below image, you can see a person called Daya having two accounts. So to get all these, to rectify all these things, you need to use the IGA software to identify whether a person having two accounts or not. All these things are obtained through the IGA software. Now, separation of duties. This one, like we also discussed that the employee cannot both request and approve the entitlements on a particular application. It's like when you're sending or raising the leave request, you should have your faculty member or your mentor should approve it. It's not like someone at your level or you have the privilege to approve it. So maintaining that in a system is called as a segregation of duties or separation of duties. The next one is attribute based policies. So attribute based policies in the sense like we can able to create a logic, like if someone is not logging into the application for certain time, then their access can be revoked. That's called attribute based policies. So if someone is not using the lab for almost for 3 months, then your lab technician can revoke your access, stating that you are not required because you are not used for past 3 months. So same way, It can be related to the organization. If someone is not using the application access, it can be transferred to someone else, because there might be some license issues can be impacting, which has a financial impact to the organization, so that they can provide the access to the valid users. Correcting policy violations, exception approvals. If a particular person is uh, not following the policy, then it will lock the system. All these uh, changes are done in the policy violation via the IGA software. So next one is a certification. So access certification. So we talked about like a user might be given multiple access to each application, or they might be given for different application. So is it relevant? Are a person from BCom is having a BCom CA is having a valid access or not? Whether they given all the accesses needed for him. So that certification, that process is called access certification or access attestation, where the manager will review all the access, like your department HOD will be reviewing, for example, reviewing all the access given to the their subordinates to detect if there is any access issue or not. That's called access certification. You can just see what is the difference between manual certification and the IGA software certification. So the main problems are time consuming. It's very hard for your HOD to get into each one's access and check whether it's correct or not. So it's better to get a report from the IGA software and look for the discrepancies. And moreover, it's a error prone. Like if someone is doing manually, there is a high chance that it can be lead to an error. So the image shows the access certification for the IGS software. So he would have been like, for example, think there is an identity of students and there is a entitlement. Like you can take it as a which year they belong to, first year, second year, and the account name as per the application, which application they belong to, and your HOD will have a approve and revoke button whether they should have it or not have it based on the entitlement and details provided. So that is how it's been done in the governance module or in a IGA software. You can also schedule that, because your HOD might forgot or your lectures might forgot when they have done a access certification earlier. So once in 6 months or once in a year, they can schedule this certification process through the software. So next topic is risk modeling. So the access certification will take some time for the managers. When access certification has to be done periodically for all the employees, the manager will become concerned about the potential time wastage and will become the source of cyber fatigue. So what is the frequency it has to be set? So for example, if it is a monthly access certification, then it's a waste of time. If it is occasional, which is annual, security risk, not detecting the access quickly. For example, if I'm doing some access certification in the month of Jan, there is someone or there is some issue from Feb onwards. I would be, if my access certification is done once in a year on January month, then the past 11 months it would be, since the issue has happened in the February month, it would be persisting there for 11 months. So we need should not have a longer frequency and also a shorter frequency as monthly. Basically, they will have as quarterly or half-yearly. Organization will have certifications quarterly or half-yearly to identify any issues or failures in the application access. See the next. So as we did in the threat modeling also, the risk modeling, they will be, if it is an annual and bulk access certification, it's a low risk. Monthly access certification, it's a high risk. So quarterly and half yearly, we have a very medium risk. So when we are performing the risk modeling, what are the things that is been considered? What is the certification age? That means when the last time the access certification was done, policy violations on the accounts. What are the entitlements in the accounts present? So you can easily understand these things. It's just a scenario of what we have discussed so far, how the governance is simplified with the help of the IGS software. You can able to see the identity entitlements, accountants, approve or reject buttons that is given to the higher managers to perform it. How the roles are created in the IGS software is given over here. So roles are nothing but, like as I said, like your student can be a role. Based on the job functions, there will be a role created. So the last topic would be identity administration. So the life cycle would be, we are provisioning the access, someone is using the access, we need to maintain it for the certain time, and when he moved out, we are deprovisioning it. It's a simple diagram that is given. So what is identity administration is concerned about more on creation of identities, creating a revocation of application accounts, managing the changes to identity and application accounts. So if you remember, identity governance is more of like a supervisor role, whether everything is happening at the right manner. But here they are actually, there they are more concerned about whether they are sticking to the policies, or whether they are, is there any issues, are we doing a certification or not. Those things come into governance. But whereas here, creation of new IDs, how to revoke them, all these things comes under identity administration. So you can read through this. What is the problem? The manual administration. So here they would have given the, in this diagram you can easily understand a person is getting moved out of the company on December 14, 2018, but the access is getting revoked on December 21, 2018. So the ideal case is whenever at the same day you have to get the access revoked. But there is a time period of 7 days where the access is still persisting, which can be misused by the employee. So if he moves out, if there is any misuse, then then the organization will be liable. So we need to ensure that the access are removed on the same day of the when a person is moving out of the organization. Automating the identity life cycle. There is a self-service portal where you can raise a request for provisioning or deprovisioning. Once a person asks for the uh, a new access, then they can be then the IGS software itself would go and provision that particular application access to that particular employee. So these things can be done in an automated way. So take for an example, we talked about the lab person who are moving into the second year will get a access to the computer lab. So it can be done automatically if we have a set setting done that if someone is moving from first year to second year, provide the access automatically to the particular portal or the particular lab, and this IGA software will be doing it once the person, like we will be having some sort of a logic here, like if it is being like 1 year past, then they will be given the access. And we have the workflows. When an employee requests a new access, then there will be like lot of approvers to where it should go. All these things are like called as a workflows. So the sequence of steps involved in fulfilling a request. So once if I want access to Infosys portal, I'll be raising access request, and what are the steps that it will be crossing, where all it should go. Those things are nothing but the sequence of steps or the workflow for this particular request. So you have a quiz related to that. So here we have just a summary of what we have discussed so far. You can go through this course. I know this would be like a pretty overwhelming for you guys. Just go through once or twice, you can easily able to understand. Like that's why like we have discussed about authentication, authorization in the previous sessions, so that you will be aware about, like first few slides you might be aware about that. The identity governance and administration, you can just read it once or twice, you can able to understand what is given in this particular course. So once you're done with the course, you have an assessment which has a 15 questions. You have 30 minutes, you can able to complete it and get a certification for this. So maybe you can start doing this. As I said, you have to you have to complete three courses. The one is IGA, Identity Governance and Administration, and the second one is, sorry, this is the third one. Second one is thread modeling that we discussed earlier or previous class, and the other one is the introduction to cybersecurity. So these are the three courses: identity and governance, administration beginner, threat modeling, and introduction to cybersecurity. You can make a note of it if you have not started, or if you don't have the, you can note it down. Threat modeling is the second course, and what we'll discuss today, identity and governance, would be the third course. So you have to complete this along with the projects given, the assignment for the in the which is there in the threat modeling, and Naeem would have given you last week on the capstone project. You have to complete these two, submit to the your lecturers for evaluation. So that's it from my end. If you have any questions, we can discuss.
Arvind, done? Done with
Yes,
the session?
yes, Supriya.
Okay, fine. Okay, so Dr. Indumati has posted a query. So for that, I'm telling. So, madam, you please check whether you have given the proper contact number or not. So, whatever contact number you have given or provided, through that same contact number, you have registered particular IDs. Okay. So, solution to this is if your contact number is changed, kindly write to the Springboard support team and ask them that this was the contact number given and it has been entered as wrong. Okay, so kindly recheck because you are trying to log in with the OTP and OTP is not sent to the device because it is showing device is not available. Maybe that contact number what has been updated might be wrong. Okay, kindly write and clearly mention this is the issue. Contact number has been changed or contact number has been wrongly taken, and you're because of that you're not able to access the Springboard. Okay, so please do this and let me know. Okay, if I can help. If that is also not resolved, I'll give you my personal mail ID. You can mail me. I'll connect with Springboard support team and I'll get it resolved. Okay, I hope I am clear with this, Dr. Indumati, madam. Okay, fine, madam. Thank you. Okay, I think we can wind up the session for the day.
Hi, Supriya. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
We
yes.
need to take feedback today. The trainer is not
Today
able to.
only? No,
Today
because
itself.
no, tomorrow, next we have one more session left.
No, this session today is the last date. I think so.
No, 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 just one second. This is the ninth session according to me. Okay, no problem. If you want to take, see, I cannot disable or enable anything as of now here because I'm not the host. See, even though I'm the host for the session, I'm not the creator of this particular meeting. Okay. Will you kindly check whether you can post a question in the chat box?
We need to share the feedback with the participants.
That's what. Oh, okay. Link. Can you paste it in the chat box? Can you check in the Q&A part? Can you paste it in the Q&A part? Kindly check whether you can paste that link, the
Sure.
feedback form.
Hi, Arun sir. Hope you are able to access the Q&A sessions on this thing.
All are able to access the Q&A session.
Supriya, actually, I don't have access to post it
Is
in.
the servant okay? 1 second. I'll make you host.
They have, actually they have asked for the mail ID. Can you? Give your mail
No,
ID.
no, no. Now I cannot give the mail ID. You kindly, madam, you please check. Okay, you please check this option. Later that I will give you my mail ID. Okay. Arvind, please check. I have made you host. Please check you whether you can access the Q&A session or not.
Actually, I can type something, but send button is not enabled.
Mm, okay.
So
Mm,
not able to.
I think that no, one more session is there we have because no, one session was cancelled if you remember. In between one session we had cancelled. So because of
Uh,
that, one more week is left. So if not possible today, no. So I'll make
cy-
sure that
for cyber
next.
security, it's not cancelled, Supriya. This is the last session.
Wait,
I'm
wait,
done
wait,
with.
wait. No, no, no. One second.
Today is the last session for the cyber security.
Just one second. Cyber security also. It was one session didn't happen. I remember. But okay, let me cross check this. But I don't know why you.
Do we have survey option website?
Hmm. Wait, this we had cancelled some sessions actually. On
Hi,
16th
Supriya.
of
Not
August, 16th of August, there was no session. I remember.
there. That was for Python batch, not for cyber security. For
No,
cyber
this
security,
also.
all
Wait. We have tracked actually. Only 8 sessions have happened for this batch 3 and 4. So 2 more sessions are left. So already we have discussed this. So 2 more sessions are left actually.
Okay, okay, Supriya. I think we can talk this offline.
Yeah, yeah, we can talk
Yeah,
regarding
I
this.
think I have taken 10 sessions. So
No.
okay, for
Okay,
batch three.
fine. So next week I'll make sure that this chat option is enabled. Okay.
Okay, okay, sure.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
team, please begin the session.
If you have any questions, we can discuss. Like, just we are trying to get the feedback form to you. Having some issues with sending it to you.
This is be in session for 10 more minutes. We are sharing the feedback form with you. Team, the feedback will be shared by the NM's box to you directly through the WhatsApp groups and through your mail IDs. You can log off. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir. Wonderful session, Arvind sir.
Thank you.
And Naeem.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye bye.